Well, now I want to turn to Tom Farrell for his scratch building of his layout projects. And I think this is getting awfully close to the completion of Shantytown. So, Tom, welcome.
Thank you for having me, and appreciate it. Yes, I'm winding up the series for my Shantytown. There'll be one more segment, and I'm finished. This evening, I'll be demonstrating the finishing of the 3-unit complex, the Shantytown rental units on the hill. So we'll just go into it here. This is the last progress from February 7th, 3 weeks ago. You can see this building's nearly complete. These are roughed in, and this is all roughed in. This is what I call the paint team for this evening's show. I acquired more of these 100-line weathering mixes at a show in Indianapolis here about a month ago now. And I've really been using them a lot. They're available. This is going from dark brown to gray here. So it's tie brown, medium brown, driftwood grayish, light gray, and blue gray. If you haven't tried these, I urge you to use them. They're kind of neat. Be kind of tough to mix all these colors on your own. Not impossible, but they work extremely well. And then these are just some of the paints that we'll be using today. This brick mortar material is still available. I used this in a segment a couple months ago. Anyway, so that's the paint for the Shantytown duplex. This is a close-up of the first building's roof. The idea is to show that this one is actually condemned, and I used a scribe siding and I poked holes in it. Shows these beams in place. I made these shingles, these asphalt shingles. I simply drew it up, colored it green, printed it in PowerPoint, then hit it with black paint. And this is a tar paper from an old company called Paper Creek. Overall, makes a pretty effective, rough-looking roof. I mentioned in a previous segment, one of the nicer roofs I've done. Here's building number 2. I'm starting on the decking here. And the roof is roughed out. These are just, in this case, 2x6s, and these are 8x8s. And they're just stained that tie brown that you saw earlier. And this is the roof for building number 2. I put a Paper Creek asphalt paper below the on first, and then I put these actual cedar shakes on here. This is way magnified, you know, at a normal distance. You don't see like that line, for example, makes me uneasy. That should be staggered, but you really can't tell once you're standing at normal length. So here we're moving along. I've put the fence on the front of this building, this first building. I put some condemned signs all over it. And on this second building, again, these go from blue to yellow to green. I've put the decking railing on place. The sort of odd roof support. So there's 2 that are coming off perpendicular, and then this one is off to the side. That's because if you see here, this is offset. So there's nothing square about this thing. These buildings go in, out, up, and down. And one of the secrets is the visual trick to use all these different materials. A brick material here, clapboard siding here, this vertical siding here, and then additional combination of paneling and clapboard siding here. Same with the bottom here. These are all different materials. You'll see it all plays together well in the very end. Sculpt-a-mold. I told you I would be blending this wall in place, and my material of choice for all my scenery work is Sculpt-a-mold. I think most of you are familiar with Sculpt-a-mold. It's basically a cellulose-based material. It hardens like plaster. It doesn't shrink, doesn't, it sets up in about 30, 40 minutes, and overnight it hardens. The neat thing I like about it is even after it hardens, see, I've got material on this concrete wall and on this brick. You can go back with a clean paintbrush and water and simply remove this just by painting it off, if you will. Plaster would stick on there hard, fast. You basically ruin it with plaster. But you just, after this dries or even while it's wet, you go back and clean all this up with a wet brush at any time, after it dries or during. I like that about it. So you can get sloppy with it and then clean it up. There's a close-up. See, it's not really plaster. It's like I don't know what it's like a rice cereal almost. That's a really, really good close-up. Another good close-up of the other side. See, I slopped it up there, but it came right off. Yeah. So there's the overall. What I did is I tried to fill in the corners and just blend this in so that it's going to look like a hill when I'm done. So the next step was to add some base colors. These are Woodland Scenics. They're scenic paints. I find they work really well for base colors. You can use acrylic or even oil washes with mineral spirits. These happen to be the Woodland Scenics paints. Here we are. I've painted a Elmer's glue diluted on here, and I've sprinkled this, just some material, Woodland Scenics green, different various green covering materials. I see I've jumped ahead here. I finished this building. It's trimmed out. I put a fence in there, a fence here, put in the windows. This is all conventional construction. These are Grant Line windows. They're all sprayed in this case, a base brown from a rattle can, and that chalk white. Then I go back with those Hunterline stains and I weather them. So there's a nice shot. That gives you an idea of the, as promised, the blending of all these different materials. So we've got stacked stone here. We've got a brick here, another brick, concrete block, others for this hill. All ad hoc, all put on there various times. There's a close-up of that brick. That's using that, well, that material, I can't recall the mortar mix that I referred to in the beginning of the program. Here's a side view. I put in a brick wall here, put some signs up, put a fence in here. So now you're looking at the side. You'd have to really, this is next to Jim's concrete dam, so you don't really see this. But if you do look over there, you can look at it. There's a nice view of the whole scenario, 1, 2, and 3. It's basically the finished model of the walkway here. There's up close of some of these condemned signs. They were pulled right off of Google and brought into PowerPoint. Makes for a nice, interesting scene. Just right off of internet search, brought into PowerPoint, sized them 3 or 4 different ways, and then printed them out, picked the best size for the job. So these are the same signs, 2 different sizes, the condemned. There is the finished model. You can see how everything just comes together. The integrated blending of all these different materials into the hill, the tie wood reinforcement here, the brick, 2 different types of stacked dry stone up top and mortared stone on the bottom. I tried to do variety with this. The boards for the decking are different on each of these two decks. The railings are all different sizes. So this is smaller, different. I tried to do variety, 3 different fences, 3 different colors. The whole key to this thing is different materials, which trick the eye. It just really makes for an attractive model. Next week, I'll have the final detailing of Shantytown. I do have a preview of a slide since there's been 2 weeks since I made this presentation. But this is the model installed on the layout with some of the details I'll feature next week. So we've got these trunks and these barrel fire and just all these little details, and I'll feature all the detailing of Shantytown next week, which will include how I did some of these things. But it's starting to look really sharp. I'm really happy with the way it's going. Yeah. All right. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Yeah.
Well, you should be happy. It's absolutely gorgeous modeling. I mean, you really ought to be just all proud of this. It's gorgeous.
Thank you very much.
It really is.
Tom,
So-
can I ask you about the brick wall that you were showing the close-up of with the Roberts mortar mix in it? Was that
Yes.
a Monster Model Works brick wall?
You know my secret.
It looked like his aged brick, and you did a really good job getting the mortar in, because the way with his bricks, it's easy for it to cover the bricks, and you did a good job of not covering them.
Yeah, that's it there. Yeah. So
Tom, you do some magnificent work all the time, but this is by far my personal favorite of the buildings in Shantytown. This is amazing.
well, I thank you. It is a rather interesting group of buildings, I must admit. There's a real close-up of it, and you know, my message all along for nearly a year now is try scratch building. You know, it's very low cost.
Yeah.
You just have to have patience, and there's nothing difficult about any of this. It's simply a question of patience. If you have patience, these things are not out of reach by any modeler. Sorry, I'm not really in the view, but and I'll get into how I detailed this, but again, it's just, well, that's next week's show. But I appreciate the compliments, and it's probably in the top 3 for me too. I have a coaling tower that I'm a little fond of, but this is certainly one of the better models I've put together. Thank you for the compliments. Yeah. All right.
Let's don't forget the dam. I mean, it's hard to see, but let's don't forget.
You know,
all right. So anyway, moving right along.
Thanks again. Thank you for having me, Jim. Jim's.
Thanks so much.
I'm gonna put a sign on it. Jim's Concrete Dam.
Listen,